Alpha. What is your alpha? In the financial world, alpha refers to the value that is added by the manager of a portfolio. We compare the performance of the portfolio to a static index and determine whether the performance is above that of the index, positive alpha, or below that of the index, negative alpha. Now, studies have shown that in any given year, over 75% of portfolio managers do not achieve a positive alpha. The question is, what is your alpha? What have you done for this organization that would not have been done had you not been with the organization? What performance can you show on behalf of the organization that is the result of your efforts? We have alpha moments. I want to give you an example of an alpha moment. 20 years ago, a man by the name of Günter Schabowski did something that had a direct effect on everyone in this room. Mr. Schabowski was a member of the East German Politburo. And on November 9th, 1989, Mr. Schabowski was giving a press conference announcing the easing of restrictions on travel between East Berlin and West Berlin. He was saying that at a certain point in the future, East German citizens would not have to show passports in order to travel from East Berlin to West Berlin. The key words there are at a certain point in the future. Now, a reporter at that press conference asked Mr. Schabowski, well, now when will these easing of restrictions be effective? And Mr. Schabowski answered with one word that changed history. Immediately. Well, you know the rest of the story. Within hours, tens of thousands of people had gathered along the wall separating East Berlin from West Berlin. At first, the East German guards tried to calm the crowd and hold them back. But then, rather than use their bullets and their bayonets to prevent people from seeking freedom, they said to themselves, well, the government has already lifted these restrictions, and this government functionary has said that the easing will take place immediately, so come on over. And the Berlin Wall fell. Now, would the Berlin Wall have fallen had it not been for what Mr. Schabowski said that day? Probably it would have, eventually. But I like to think that Günter Schabowski knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that by uttering one word, that the nightmare of communism for his people would be over with. The reason I feel this way is that later in life, Mr. Schabowski spent a great deal of time and effort traveling across Germany and the rest of Europe telling about what a horrible thing communism was. It can't be justified by economics, it cannot be justified morally, it's just a bad deal. So Mr. Schabowski had his alpha moment. I think he meant to do that. Now, what can you point to in your history with this organization where everything seemed to come together and you seized the initiative and you created your alpha moment? What can you say when you show that would not have happened had it not been for your actions with this organization? That's your alpha moment.